And now, we will have a touching speech from the sister of the groom, Simon. Her name is Sarah. You know, Sarah actually dropped out of college and was raised in a single-parent household. This speech is coming from her with a heart-wrenching life story. And guess what? She will be delivering the speech in Spanish, so that all our foreign guests can understand. Huh? Spanish? Did she just say Spanish? I was indeed asked to give a speech as a part of the wedding ceremony for my brother. But I was never told to do it in Spanish. As I stood there, bewildered, my brother's bride-to-be, Emily, smirked and taunted me. Oh? Didn't you know? It's okay. Sarah went to learn Spanish. I really want to see the capabilities of a college dropout. You can do it, right? Fine. So, this was their plan, to embarrass me in front of everyone. Why would anyone think of doing such a thing on this beautiful day? She's truly spiteful. The guests seemed confused, whispering and looking at me. What's taking so long? Get on with it. Can you really speak Spanish? I heard someone mockingly say. Well, if this is how it's going to be, I'm going to show them. I tore up the script I had prepared and started speaking from the heart. And there, Emily's face turned pale. I am Sarah, 23 years old. I grew up in a single-parent household with my mother and brother. It was just the three of us. We weren't rich, but thanks to my mother and brother, life was always fun. My brother always got near-perfect scores on tests and had outstanding grades. He was too perfect, always kind to me, who struggled with studies. My test scores were always near failing. But even when teachers lectured me, my mother never got angry. It's okay, life isn't just about studying. Sarah, you're a kind and lively girl. That's more than enough. Thanks to the gentle love of my mother and brother. I never felt inferior for my lack of academic skills. Time passed, and my brother got accepted into a prestigious national university as a scholarship student. And I managed to barely enroll into an average college nearby. We were celebrating my admission in our living room with snacks when suddenly, my brother's phone rang. He said it was an unknown number. As he talked, his face grew cloudy. After hanging up, he said, "Mom has collapsed." We rushed to the hospital, and in the designated room, our mother lay in bed, tubes attached, talking to a doctor. Seeing us out of breath, she smiled and gestured us over. Mom, are you okay? No, wait, Mom, please. I was almost crying, clinging to her, and she laughed. Oh, Sarah, you're exaggerating. I'm okay, just overdid it a bit. I won't die from this. Our mother raised us alone, as a single parent. How hard it must have been. My mom worked multiple jobs and was hardly ever home. It must have been overwork that finally caught up with her. She collapsed at work and had to be rushed to the hospital. I never really thought about it deeply before, but we've lived comfortably up till now solely on Mom's efforts. I can't let her bear this burden alone anymore. I need to support Mom and our home. Hey, I'm gonna give up going to college. I'll work instead of going to school, so Mom doesn't have to work so hard and can have it a bit easier, right? I blurted out loudly, forgetting that I was in a hospital room. Mom and my brother, Simon, were shocked by my sudden declaration. There was a brief silence. Then, it was Simon who broke it. If Sarah is giving up college to work for Mom, then I'll give up university to work too. Mom also raised her voice in response. You both don't need to worry about me. I want you to follow your own paths. Please. Mom, the path I want to take is to help you. That's what I really want to do. It's okay. I can get a diploma later. So, please let me be selfish this time. I wanted to help Mom, even if it meant giving up on college. Mom and Simon, overwhelmed by my determination, reluctantly agreed to let me work. Simon promised to help with finances as soon as he graduated. And so, my frantic job search began. Without college, my highest education was high school. I applied to any job that seemed like it might suit me. I went to several interviews. But it was tough to get hired. I mostly received rejection emails. I wanted to support Mom quickly, but all I felt was growing anxiety. Then, I received a phone call. It was a job offer from a company willing to take me in. The job was at a 5-star hotel, living on site. I was going to work as a waitress. Honestly, I thought it was the least likely place to hire me, so I was over the moon when I got the call. What kind of people stay at a 5-star hotel? Does living on site mean I get to eat delicious food? I was excited about this unknown world. But, once I started working, it was one hardship after another. The work, my first ever job, was several times harder than I imagined. I had never been on an overnight trip or stayed at 5-star hotel. So I had no idea what kind of service guests expected. That's why I tried so hard to learn quickly, but it was just one failure after another. I mistakenly guided guests to the wrong rooms, fell while serving food in an unfamiliar uniform, and got scolded by guests for my awkward service. At first, the other waitresses were kind, but as my failures piled up, they started avoiding me, saying, "Stay away from her, or you'll get dragged into trouble." No matter how hard I tried, nothing went right. I was given the cold shoulder by my coworkers. I thought about quitting many times. But it was in those moments that I thought of Mom. I couldn't let her suffer anymore. I had decided to work hard, no matter what. I kept pushing myself, no matter how many times I failed. And instead of just working hard, I tried to be smart about it. I secretly watched other waitresses and took notes on what I thought they did well. Then, after work, I'd practice serving imaginary guests, going over my notes. I practiced serving in a formal uniform too. I was muttering to myself during these practices, so at first, people thought I was losing it. But my efforts paid off. Gradually, I made fewer mistakes and started receiving compliments from guests. Seeing my efforts, the waitresses who had been avoiding me began to acknowledge my hard work and treated me kindly again. Even when faced with difficulties, the support of my colleagues helped me overcome them. One day off, my brother Simon invited Mom and me to a fancy restaurant, saying he had some news to share. Mom and I were nervous, wondering if it was something big or maybe even a marriage announcement. To our surprise, Simon announced he had secured a job at a top international company. Mom and I, forgetting the genteel atmosphere of the restaurant, loudly congratulated him. Simon really is amazing. Sarah, sorry for all the hardship I've caused. As promised, I'll start supporting the family too. And it's time I repay Mom for everything she's done for us. Really, you too. I keep saying I'm fine, but thank you. Mom's eyes seemed a bit teary as she smiled. Seeing her expression, I felt even more determined to work hard for her sake. With both me and Simon working, Mom could finally have an easier life. We started spending more family time together, and our days were happier than ever. Then one day, more joyous news arrived. Simon was getting married. His fiancée, Emily, was someone he met through work. She must be quite exceptional. I was finally getting the sister I had always dreamed of. I felt a mix of happiness and nervousness. The day of the family meeting arrived. And the venue was the hotel where I work. This hotel, where I work, is frequented secretly by celebrities, Nobel laureates, and genius surgeons. It's a well-known place among those in the know, a luxurious inn where guests can relax both physically and mentally. It made sense for my accomplished brother and his fiancée to choose it. I thought I wouldn't be nervous because it was my workplace. Sarah, aren't you a bit too tense? Yeah, it's not you who's getting married. Before I knew it, I was sitting stiffly, fists clenched, sweating. Startled, I laughed, oh no. As we waited for the other family, a young woman's voice said, "Hello," from behind. Turning around, I saw a tall, slender, and beautiful woman with a stylish light brown bob haircut, her long neck accentuating her grace. She looked like she stepped out of a storybook, and I was awestruck, staring open-mouthed at her. Are you nervous, little sister Sarah? Don't worry. I'm looking forward to today. This beautiful woman was none other than Emily, Simon's fiancée, and soon-to-be my sister-in-law. Emily worked at a company that did business with Simon's, and they met as representatives. She even went to Stanford University. I was so captivated by Emily's beauty that I couldn't help but stare. Every time she noticed, she smiled back at me. We hadn't talked much, but her kind smile made me think she must be a wonderful person. Sarah? Are you listening? Startled by Simon's sudden question, I blurted out. Sarah seems to be quite nervous. Oh, sorry. Emily is just so beautiful. Laughter filled the room. Sarah, I have a favor to ask. What is it? We'd like to have our wedding party at this hotel where you've worked so hard. Really? Is that so? Yeah, because a lot of the wedding guests will be foreigners. This place has a beautiful garden and really captures the beauty of nature, right? I thought they'd appreciate it. What do you think? I think it's a great idea. All right, I'll check with the manager later. Thank you, Sarah. Overwhelmed by my brother's pleasant suggestion, I excused myself to the restroom. My brother's wedding here. It's really something to think about. I hope it'll be a grand ceremony. Touching up my makeup at the sink, I pondered again about my brother's wedding. Lost in thought in front of the mirror, I was suddenly approached from behind. Hey! Looking through the mirror, I saw Emily. Her voice sounded lower than before. I barely recognized her. I turned around in surprise, and there she was, looking at me with a puzzled expression. Hey, what's with you? You've been staring at my face since earlier. Is there something you don't like? I had been staring because she was so beautiful, but it was certainly rude. Just as I was about to apologize, Emily continued without giving me a chance. You're really silly, it's laughable. Taken aback by Emily's unexpected words, I could only respond with a dumbfounded huh? Is this really Emily? Or are you and Simon really siblings? There's too much of a difference. Simon has been on a top-tier path since he was young, but what about you? A college dropout working as a waitress. And while Simon's face suits me as a handsome man, you're just plain, ordinary. You're way below my expectations. Hilarious. I was at a loss for words, shocked by Emily's sudden verbal assault. What's with that dumb look? It's really funny. Your education shows on your face. Then Emily whispered in my ear. Hey, are you really blood-related to Simon? Huh? Because you and Simon are nothing alike, in brains or looks. It's definitely strange. Oh, I get it. You must be your mom's child from a previous relationship. Single mother, right? With such a shabby mom, no wonder Simon's dad left. That's why you don't resemble Simon. Emily looked at me with a smirk, as if mocking me. Even insulted my mom. So what if we're from a single mother household? Even if she ridiculed me, I couldn't stand her mocking my mom who raised us. Say whatever you want about me. But please, stop saying such awful things about my mom. I can't accept this, even if you are my brother's fiancé. I raised my voice, letting my anger show. Emily then crossed her arms and shifted her weight onto one foot. A college dropout standing up to me? Seriously, this is why I can't stand people with no brains. Someone like you becoming my sister-in-law is a blemish on my life. Please, can you pretend to be a stranger at the wedding? Actually, from now on. A dropout like you in the same family as me is unimaginable. After saying that, Emily left with the sound of her heels clacking. What the heck? Why do I have to put up with this? Was my brother's choice really someone like her? Returning to the room with a heavy heart, I found Emily, who had returned earlier, beckoning to me as if she had been waiting. Sarah. Finally, you're back. I've been waiting. I have something important to talk about. Come quickly. Emily called out to me, back in her nice person mode. As if she weren't an actress. Shocked by her drastic change, I reluctantly returned to my seat. As soon as I sat down, Emily immediately began. You know what? She looked around slowly at everyone, dragging out the moment. When our eyes met, she seemed to smirk. I was thinking of asking my cute soon-to-be sister Sarah to give a special speech at the wedding. What? I didn't know about this. I felt like time stopped for a moment in surprise. But it seemed I wasn't the only one surprised, eh? Sarah? It appeared to be unexpected for Simon too. Sorry, Simon. Actually, I just talked to Sarah in the restroom, and she said she wanted to do something for you, so I thought maybe she could give a speech. Emily said, spinning a tale of events that never happened. I realized I was staring at her, dumbfounded. Coming back to my senses, I saw Emily smirking and Simon smiling at me. It'd be great if Sarah could give a speech, but are you sure? Yeah, I'm fine with it. I want to do it for my brother. Seeing Simon's happy face, I couldn't refuse. Yeah, that's right. If my speech makes my brother happy, then it's not a bad deal. I don't know what Emily is really thinking, but I decided to go along with her idea. Time passed since that day, and finally, the wedding day arrived. Thanks to meticulous preparations, the ceremony went smoothly. I was nervous in the unfamiliar atmosphere of a wedding, but even more anxious about whether I could deliver the speech well. I found myself clenching my fists and sweating like on the day of the family meeting. My hands were so sweaty I couldn't even hold my glass properly. It's okay, I can do this. Sarah, congratulations today. You have a speech later, right? Good luck. Yes. Thank you. Don't be so nervous. You'll do great, Sarah. You practiced a lot and worked hard. I guarantee it. Look. My supervisor, always kind to me, patted my back. Since Emily tasked me with the speech, I had been practicing every day after work. Initially, I practiced alone, muttering to myself, but then my coworkers joined in to help. Thanks to them, I could give a smooth speech in front of about 10 people without getting nervous. But speaking in front of hundreds of people is a different story. My supervisor's encouragement eased my nerves a bit, but my hands still wouldn't stop sweating. Then the moment for the special performance arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention. Emily's shrill voice filled the hall. She suddenly stood up and came towards me, pulling me to the microphone stand. Emily put her hand on my shoulder, leaned close, and spoke into the microphone. Now, Simon's sister, Sarah, will deliver a touching speech. Actually, Sarah grew up in a single-parent household and, incredibly, gave up going to college to start working at this hotel right after high school. She lived on, sacrificing everything, her education, pride, all to help her single mother, working as a waitress here until today. Emily gave an introduction I never wished for, even bringing up my family and mother. She was crafting a tear-jerking story in a mocking tone, which really angered me. Despite being so young, she's a hard-working girl with a heart-wrenching life story. And now, Sarah will give her speech in Spanish, so our foreign guests can understand. Please, go ahead. Wait, Spanish? Did she just say Spanish? Yes, Sarah. Oh? Didn't I tell you? It's okay, you learned Spanish. Emily spoke mockingly into the microphone again. Everyone seemed to believe I was going to give a speech in Spanish, waiting expectantly. As I froze, Emily smirked and continued. Sarah has been working at this hotel for many years. As you all know, this inn is popular among foreigners, regularly visited by international guests. And among you today, there are many foreigners. Sarah, with her extensive experience in such a multicultural environment, can surely give a wonderful speech in Spanish, right? I thought it'd be easy for her. True, the inn does host many foreign guests, and I did hear there would be many foreign guests at the wedding. But to suddenly spring this on me on the day itself? So, this was her plan, to embarrass me in front of everyone. On such a wonderful day, why would she think of doing something like this? How mean. As I pondered, time didn't wait. Simon looked worried, wondering what was happening. The guests were whispering among themselves, looking confused. Somebody said, "Hurry up." "Can you really speak Spanish?" someone jeered, laughing. Cold sweat covered my body. And I could feel large beads of sweat running down my back. What should I do? Sarah! Don't give up! Pull yourself together! Suddenly, the voice of my supervisor who had encouraged me earlier resonated through the hall. Sarah, you can do it! Stand up straight and take a deep breath. Following her advice, I straightened up and took a deep breath. You got this, Sarah. I guarantee it. Encouraged by her voice, my coworkers began to shout, "You can do it, and you got this." All right, let's do this. Taking a deep breath, I began my speech in Spanish. I had been given this ad-lib task. So I decided to speak my mind, ignoring the script I had written. As she said, I'm not smart. But I've received so much love from my mother and brother, which has helped me to persevere. And I'm very happy to be here at my dear brother's wedding. I was thrilled to hear my respected brother was getting married, and I looked forward to meeting the wonderful woman he chose. However, my expectations were quickly shattered on the day of our family meeting. The hall buzzed at my words shattered. Ignoring the murmurs, I openly shared how Emily had insulted me and my mother in the restroom on the day of the family meeting. The buzzing in the hall grew louder. Nevertheless, she is the woman my brother chose. I sincerely wish for my brother's happiness. Simon, it'll be lonely, but do visit us sometimes. Mom and I will be waiting. I spoke with gratitude for my brother. At that moment, many emotions welled up inside me. And I felt like crying. But while speaking, I felt so happy and liberated. As I finished speaking, the hall erupted into loud applause. My mother and Simon looked happy, and Emily, who hadn't expected me to speak Spanish, wore a frustrated expression. Her misdeeds had been exposed, after all. Serves her right. Looking around the hall, I noticed Asian guests. Feeling emboldened, I continued my speech in French and Italian. The energy in the hall skyrocketed, and it turned into a standing ovation. Amidst the deafening applause and shouts of amazing. Well done. I saw Emily gripping her dress tightly, her face twisted in anger. The reason I could speak so many languages was thanks to the environment of my workplace. This 5-star hotel where I have worked is famous in the USA, often visited by foreign tourists. As a result, the waitresses were diverse, including French, Canadian, and Italian staff. I, a fan of the latest singers, often watched their videos during breaks, which my coworkers knew about. Initially, not understanding French, a French waitress taught me as we watched videos together. Gradually, it became a regular activity during breaks, teaching each other languages while watching videos. Eventually, I began to understand the languages spoken by my favorite singers, and not just French, but other languages as well. This naturally became useful for work, and using various languages became routine. Surrounded by applause, I returned to my seat with a confident smile, glancing at Emily. Then Emily came up to me, her face twisted in anger, grabbed my shirt, and leaned in close, speaking with rage. "Sarah, don't you dare make a fool of me!" Emily's spit sprayed across my face as she shook me. Her face turned red. It looked more like embarrassment than anger. "Why did you spill everything in front of everyone about the family meeting day?" "Why?" "Because." I was about to respond when Simon grabbed Emily's shoulder from behind. "Emily! That's not the point." I had never seen my kind brother so angry. "Emily, what's this all about? You didn't mention a Spanish speech on the family meeting day. And you really spoke like that about our mother?" Simon was furious, staring sharply at Emily. After a moment of silence, under his intense gaze and the loud booing from the crowd, Emily finally spoke. "Yes, it's true. It's ridiculous, isn't it? How can someone as outstanding as Simon be with a college dropout? It's embarrassing. Simon is handsome and highly educated, but his sister is neither beautiful nor smart. What a disgrace!" Exhausted from her outburst, Emily collapsed to the floor. The crowd booed again. "What's wrong with everyone? Damn. If only you weren't here." Emily started to approach me again when a sharp slap echoed through the hall. I opened my eyes to see Simon had slapped her. "Emily, even after hearing Sarah's speech, you still say such things." Simon was looking down, shoulders shaking. "Emily, Sarah and I grew up well because of our mother. Didn't you hear her speech? Sarah is hardworking like our mother and outstanding like me, right?" Simon appealed to Emily with tears. Emily, her face still red, remained silent and downcast. "Emily, I never thought you would do something like this. My blood-related family is the most important to me. Haven't I told you that many times? I thought you understood. What a disappointment." Simon took a deep breath, as if making a decision. "Let's call off the wedding." At Simon's words, Emily looked up suddenly, then burst into tears and collapsed to her knees. She clung to Simon's legs. "Simon, no, please. Don't do this. Forgive me. I was wrong. I'll love your mother and sister, even if they're from a single-parent family or not smart. Please, just don't do this." Emily was pathetically begging. Despite everything she had brought upon herself, she showed no sign of true remorse. Simon's decision remained unchanged. Later, Simon formally called off the engagement with Emily. Despite desperate apologies from Emily and her parents, he firmly ended it, saying that someone who had spoken like that couldn't change so easily. Simon looked sad for a while, but he always said family was the most important. Emily had to resign from her job too. It seems that one of Emily's colleagues who attended the wedding talked about the incident to another employee, and the rumor spread quickly. As a result, Emily became the subject of gossip and was pointed at behind her back. And it became difficult for her to stay. About a week later, Simon called with some great news. Emily's former company wanted to work with me after hearing my multilingual speech at the wedding. Her boss had been impressed and offered me a position. After consulting with my coworkers at the hotel, who encouraged me to go for it, I thanked the hotel for everything and joined Emily's former company. Being multilingual, I was valued more than Emily, who only spoke English, and I embarked on a different and exciting life. I had dropped out of college to support my family. And people like Emily often judged and mocked me for it. But I believe there are things more important than education. Like gaining experience. Experiencing life firsthand broadens your world and enriches your life. I plan to keep learning through experiences, not just from books.